Hey everyone, we're going to get started here in just a minute. My name's Spencer Haws from Longtail Pro, and I'm joined with Jake. Jake, why don't you just give a shout out, make sure you can hear me, and everybody else can hear you as well.
Great, thanks. Yeah, this is Jake Cain. Hello, everybody. Going to get started here in just a minute, talking about how to get more free traffic from Google for your website the easy way. So thanks for joining us. And like Spencer said, go ahead and let us know. Make sure you can hear us, and you should be seeing the first slide here. So just make sure you've got visual and audio there, and we'll get started here in just a moment.
Yep, absolutely. So in the chat box, if you could just say, yes, I can hear you and I can see your screen, that would be great. We are getting a few people just saying hello. That's great. We got Kevin saying hello. Hello, Earthlings. Hi. That's great. Lots of people are joining in. So I'm assuming that you can both hear us and see our screen. So that's great. Like we said, we are going to get started here in just a minute once we double check everything is good. Yes, and people can hear us loud and clear. So that's great. So I'm going to kind of get rolling. I'm going to do a brief intro basically here, and then I'm going to let Jake take it over for the most part. And so I think that most of you probably know who I am. Again, my name is Spencer Haws. I'm the founder of Longtail Pro and the keyword research tool that you have all at least tried out and hopefully are a little bit familiar with. I also blog over at nichepursuits.com. That's my blog where I just talk about my business strategies and what's working for me and maybe what's not working for me, and explain hopefully a lot of tactics that you guys can use in your business. So with that, Longtail Pro is a business that I care a lot about, and so I've brought Jake on as a marketing manager, brand manager, and just all around content person, because Jake really knows his stuff. He's built several websites himself and has been able to rank very quickly in Google using long-tail keyword strategies. And so he is actually going to present the bulk of the presentation. I'm going to be hanging out in the comments, answering questions, and I'll pop back in later for a little bit of Q&A and that sort of thing. But for the most part here, Jake is going to take it over and talk about exactly what you can see on your screen here, how to get more free traffic from Google the easy way. And it's really the strategies that we've implemented in our own business. So with that, Jake, go ahead. It's all you.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Spencer. And thanks again, everybody, for being here today. Spencer said, my name's Jake Cain. I'm coming to you from Cincinnati, Ohio. So something we like to do at the beginning of our webinars is, if you don't mind, just pop into the chat where you're from, just so we can see. Usually we have folks from literally around the world, which is pretty cool. So we're all coming here together today to learn and have a little bit of fun. So as Spencer said, I started working for him almost a year ago now, which is hard to believe. And just to give you a little background on myself personally, I'm a husband and father of 3 little boys here in Cincinnati, big sports fan, big Reds fan. And I started doing websites back in 2008 with the hopes of making a little bit of extra money. And so if you read the Longtail Pro blog, a lot of times I use my own sites as an example, sometimes for good and sometimes for bad. I'm definitely not perfect and haven't arrived, and certainly I've made some mistakes along the way. But as I kind of fumbled through it, somewhere along the line, a couple years later, at that point I had no idea what I was doing. It was a site about baseball, whatever, baseball stadiums and things like that. But as far as what a Longtail keyword was and Longtail Pro, I'd never heard of any of this stuff, but I discovered Spencer's blog, bought the software, became a customer, and then eventually built sites and other niches that have done really well as sort of side projects. And now, of course, I'm working for Longtail Pro and using these same keyword strategies to get traffic from Google. So both Spencer and I have used this system, so to speak, to rank sites and do really, really well in a variety of different industries and for a variety of different purposes. So I really believe the stuff we're going to cover today will be relevant to you no matter where you're at, from the very beginner to somebody that maybe has a brick and mortar business and you're just trying to figure out how to get more search engine traffic. I think it's going to be applicable to everybody. So let's go ahead and dive in and get started. So the first thing, just going to talk about what are long tail keywords? And just to give you an idea of sort of where we're headed with this big picture, I'm going to just establish sort of the groundwork here to make sure we're all on the same page with what keywords are, what long tail keywords are. I'm going to give some examples. Then I'm going to talk about how to find these ideas and show you the real ways of how we do it. You know, we do this for Longtail Pro, and as I said, we do it for our own websites as well. So I'm really going to share, you know, exactly how I use Longtail Platinum to do these things, and hopefully you can replicate that as well. And then we're going to talk about analyzing your competition, and then sort of once you have these keywords, you know, what to do with them, how to actually create content that's going to rank in Google. And so that's sort of where we're headed at a high level. So let's start right here with what are long tail keywords. Long tail keywords are generally search phrases with a more specific intent and typically have lower competition in the search engine. So taking a step back, when we say a keyword is just any Google search. So if you go type something into Google, that is a keyword for our purposes. So when you hear keyword, just think Google search or any search engine, but I just kind of use Google because it's sort of the king of search. But a long tail keyword usually has a more specific intent, usually has lower competition. So let's look at an example here to help drive home the point. How to lose weight is not a long tail keyword. So this sort of emphasizes the point that it's not necessarily about the length of the phrase. As you can see, that has 4 words in it, you know, how to lose weight, but it's still a very general topic that's going to have huge, you know, very high competition. There are tons of different angles that you can take on how to lose weight. You know, you're going to have big fitness brands, all kinds of things trying to rank for this phrase. And so your ability as perhaps a small business or a small website just getting started to rank in the top of Google for how to lose weight it's going to be virtually impossible, frankly. But let's look at how to lose weight over 40. And this is a keyword idea that I came upon in Longtail Platinum preparing for this presentation. And this is an example of a long tail keyword. It's the same topic, obviously, on how to lose weight, but there's a little modifier in there for, you know, over 40. So obviously it's a lot more specific. It's somebody who's in a particular age group or age range, and they want to find, you know, weight loss tips specifically for their demographic. And so as you might imagine, that phrase is typically going to be lower competition. And what I mean by that is, as I said with how to lose weight, you know, there's going to be millions, maybe billions of pages out there on the internet that target how to lose weight in some form or fashion. However, there's going to be far less pages overall that target how to lose weight specifically for people over 40. And so when we talk about laser focused on that topic, the breadth of the competition is much lower. And then we're going to talk about looking at the top 10 results specifically to kind of see what your chances are of breaking into that page 1 of the results. So hopefully that gives a little bit of an idea. And we're actually going to look at both these keywords here in just a second. The final point about what long tail keywords are is that typically they have more buyer intent. And so what I mean by that is, if you're selling a product or trying to get leads or just doing advertising, or maybe you have an affiliate website or something like that where you're sort of promoting someone else's product, long tail keywords, the beauty of them is that often you know a lot more about the buyer persona, and they might be comparing 2 products or looking for the best type of a certain product or something really specific where they're further down that buyer's chain. And this example is also kind of drives home this point. If I'm looking at how to lose weight over 40, you're able to be much more targeted on your marketing side to that audience. You know the kinds of products, whether you sell, you know, maybe it's an ebook or a PDF that someone downloads, so it's a lead magnet, or it's a certain weight loss product or whatever. When I'm building a page about how to lose weight for those over 40, I can target my offering, my delivery, a lot more than I can just how to lose weight. Because when somebody searches that, it could be, you know, somebody just doing some general research. It could be somebody who's old, somebody who's young. It could be a man. It could be a woman. We don't know. But as the phrase gets more specific, more long tail, the more we know about that person, the more we know about what they're interested in, and ultimately what they're thinking about buying, which helps us on the side of getting that lead or getting that sale. All right, so as I said, let's look at these just briefly, and we're going to get into the details. Don't let this overwhelm you at this point. We're going to get into the details showing other keywords in Longtail Platinum here in a bit. But this is just showing you what I mentioned a moment ago, how to lose weight. What you're seeing is And by the way, I'm just going to throw this out there. This will be available for replay. So this webinar, if you joined us late, or if I go buy something kind of quickly, just know that there will be a replay available. And also, if your screen, if it's a little bit small or whatever, I'll read through some of this. And again, you can look on the replay. But I just want to tell you kind of what you're seeing here. Basically, what this is saying is that the number up sort of the top middle tells us that how to lose weight gets searched 110,000 times per month on average in Google in the US, which is a lot, obviously. And then the number on the top right that I've got circled is 72. That's our keyword competitiveness score in Longtail Platinum. And this is basically just a calculation that we've developed to tell you how difficult it is to rank for that keyword. We're going to dive into those numbers here in a bit. But I can just tell you now that that means, again, it's virtually impossible to rank for this keyword. It's filled with huge brands, WebMD, health.com, bodybuilding.com. They're all laser focused on exactly how to lose weight. And you can see over on the left, all the titles of the pages, almost every single one of them has how to lose weight exactly in it, so it's just stacked with huge results that would be very difficult to rank in front of naturally with your website. Now here's a look at how to lose weight over 40, just to kind of compare and contrast here. This gets searched 210 times per month in the US, obviously much less, but the keyword competitiveness is actually shows us at a 28 that this is a pretty low competition keyword. And so when you look at the results, yes, you do see some authoritative brands. You see some that are a little less authoritative than we did before. But when you look at the page titles, you see that not many of these are very focused on this exact phrase. So there's some, weight loss after 40, fighting 40s flab, so they've got some different ways that they're wording it, boosting metabolism after 40. So as you can see, the keyword competitiveness calculation is much lower there. So just to kind of give you an idea of this is sort of when you're looking at this, if I were doing a weight loss website, I would know that I have a much better chance if I go with this targeted keyword of actually ranking and pulling in this traffic, getting a lead and getting a customer. So hopefully that's sort of illustrating the point of why long tail keywords make sense. So let's talk a little bit more about it. Why go long tail? 70% of all keyword traffic comes from long tail keywords. I'm going to show a graph here in just a moment that sort of drives that point home visually. But basically, if everything that gets searched in Google, obviously there are, a lot of very general searches that get searched hundreds of thousands, millions of times and things like that. But overall, those make up just about 30% of the searches. The vast majority of searches are these very long things that get searched, anywhere from 10 to 100 times a month, very specific search phrases. So there's a lot of traffic in the long tail. You just have to know what those keywords are and what those searches are in your industry and your niche. And that's what we're going to get into today, is how you can sort of discover those ideas and take advantage of the long tail keywords that would apply to your business. Another interesting statistic is that it's estimated that 20% of all searches have never been done before. And if you think about it, that's really mind-blowing. I believe the article I read on this said something like Google scratches its head 500 million times a day or something like that. Just saying that, the searches are truly unique. And so the thing is about long tail keywords is that there's new ones happening all the time. People are searching really specific stuff. And again, the key is to have that knowledge and take advantage of it as best you can. And then finally, the final reason, I guess, to go long tail is that lower competition means easier ranking. And we looked at that a moment ago, and we'll take a deeper dive here in a minute. But, as it just makes logical sense, when you have sites that aren't really targeting the keyword very well, that are in the top 10 of Google, you have sites that are, not very authoritative, not big brands, sites that are just whatever, some random guy's little blog that has no authority in Google's eyes, and they're your competition. It's much, much easier to rank for that than it would be a really general phrase like how to lose weight and to try to take down, Fitness Magazine, for instance. So it just makes sense. It's easier to rank when you focus on a long tail keyword strategy. Cool. So here's a look at that graphic that I mentioned, just kind of showing you what they call the fat head and the chunky middle. These are sort of the more generic keyword phrases. And then the long tail keyword phrases, these very specific phrases getting searched 10, 20, 30 times a month, is the vast majority of searches being done overall. All right, so now let's look at how to find long tail keywords. And I'm actually going to bounce outside of the presentation here in just a moment and show you some of this. So there are a bunch of different ways to do this, and I'm just going to talk about a few. And so the challenge becomes, like I mentioned, whatever your niche is, and we're going to talk for some of our examples today, we're going to talk as if we're doing a site that's about running or marathoning, something like that. But again, these concepts apply to whatever it is that you do. So really the question is, how do I find out what the long tail keywords are in my industry? How do I know? One way is to go to Amazon and look for seed keyword ideas to use to kind of expound upon and find those. And so here's how I do that for some of my sites. All right, let me bounce out here, and you should be seeing my web browser now. So I'm going to in Amazon, and what I do, you can look for physical products if you'd like. Personally, I like to go to the Kindle store. So you may be able to see here, I've changed this to where I'm searching the Kindle store here. And what I do is I go and just search things related to my topic. So in this case, running. And then I just like to browse some of the book titles, because a lot of these book titles that rank near the top of Amazon, these guys have really done their research and they know what people are searching for in Amazon and the kinds of phrases that they use. And so sometimes I might get an idea about a certain term or a way to word things I hadn't thought of before that might sort of open up a bunch of possibilities for long tail keywords. So I'm just going to type in, to start out, I'll just type in how to run and see what happens here, and kind of look for some ideas. Again, some seed keyword ideas that I can plug into Longtail Platinum and get more ideas on top of that. All right. So I'm seeing a beginner's guide, how to run faster, farther, how to run injury free. Another thing about beginning running, running when you're overweight, running with curves here. All right. And so what I would do, and then now we're getting into some stuff that's less relevant about running businesses. But my suggestion to you is as you're looking for these and you see things that, hey, yeah, let's plug that in and see what kind of keyword ideas we can come up with. Just make a note of it somewhere on a pen or paper, or jot it down in Evernote or something like that. Just your ideas, because with Longtail Platinum or any keyword tool, there's no limit to how many searches that you can run. So just get some ideas here. And then maybe I'll just click on the category here of running and jogging over on the left. So when I click on the category and see what kind of books come up here. So some of the same ones that I saw. Here's about marathoning. So eat like a champion marathoner, run like a marathoner, run with a hip replacement, barefoot running. That could be a good one. How to run a marathon. So I've seen that come up a couple of times. So again, maybe marathon running or marathon training could be a good keyword idea for me to start with. All right. So again, I can kind of go through this and look at some of these Kindle books, see what I can come up with and get some of those ideas. The next thing in my presentation that I mentioned was looking for forums in your topic. And forums are a little bit old school, these discussion forums online. But it seems like in almost every niche that there's at least one forum, and in some cases multiple forums, where you just have your target audience come together and they discuss relevant topics all the time. So they're talking about the things that matter to runners in this case, and that's where you can go and pick up some other ideas of the people that you want to attract to your website. What are they asking each other? What types of things are they discussing? And inside of that, a lot of times, again, you'll find some good keyword ideas. So one way to do that, I'm going to go over to Google here, and I'm just going to type in running and +, forum. And there's different ways you can search for it, but this is just an easy way to find, and again, in your case, you would just put maybe your main keyword or your main topic or your industry plus forum, and then search that and see what you come up with. And as you might imagine, runners are pretty passionate people overall. So I would imagine there are probably dozens, maybe hundreds of online forums for runners. So I could go through this for hours, but I just want to show you an example of how I would go through this and get some ideas. So let's click on this Runner's World community here. And let me scroll down a little bit and just see if I've got anything that comes up. Now you can get into the details here. If you want to click into some of these threads, you can, and great. In my case, I usually just kind of look at different boards and scan down the threads. and see, so questions for new runners, how to run faster. And again, trying to just look for some keywords, some phrases that I might not have thought of that I could search for in my keyword process. So let's look at this first one here, a featured topic, common training terminology. This could be interesting because we're going to get some terms here that probably more for beginners, that maybe that I haven't thought of. So here's tempo run, running intervals. Okay, could be a good one. Repetition, hills, strides, warming up and cooling down. So again, maybe some ideas there. And then you can just click around a little bit inside the forum. So I'm going to click on over here on the right, it says women's running. That's what I'm clicking on here to see what topics that I find. So let's see what we got here. Maybe I'll find something again that's okay. So I've got pregnant running, fall edition, half marathon while pregnant. Okay, so another topic. Maybe I can do some tips for pregnant runners and things like that. So again, all things that I'm jotting down that I'm going to use with my keyword tool here in a moment, and expound on that and get some more ideas. All right, and so the third and sort of final thing that I mentioned, and again, finding keyword ideas is something that is absolutely open to creativity. I'm just kind of showing you some of my favorites. This is certainly not an exhaustive list of how to think of starter keyword ideas. You can do a lot of things, but hopefully this will point you in the right direction. A tool that I absolutely love is called ubersuggest.org, and this is in the presentation. And again, the replay of this will be available for you. But what you can do here is basically, it's a free tool. You simply go out to it, and what it does is it gives you the suggestions for any search that you want. And how that works is, you've probably noticed when you go to Google or Bing or whatever, and you start typing in something that you're going to search, the search engine now will try to instantly guess what the next word is, and it's trying to fill in the blanks of what you might be searching for. And so what this tool does is basically, anything you type in, it'll do that process for every letter in the alphabet and give you all of those suggestions in mass at one time, which is really pretty powerful because you could type in the beginning of your topic. So in this case, I did it ahead of time just to kind of save us some time here, but I typed in what this says is best running shoes for. That's what I typed in, okay? I hit suggest, it takes 30 seconds, the page refreshes, and I come down. And now this says 854 suggestions found. And so as I scroll down this, it's exactly what it's doing. Best running shoes for women, best running shoes for flat feet, for plantar fasciitis, on down. And so as I go down the page, now it's telling me best running shoes for plus the letter A. And I've got ideas like for arch support, for ankle support, for a marathon, for arch pain, on down the list. For B, bad knees, big guys, beginners, big men, things like that. Okay, so as you can already see, this is going to be full of a lot of little, keyword, long tail keyword ideas that are going to be lower competition that I can go through and analyze and really find some great topics for my website to write about and create blog posts about. So what I do with this is, from here, when I come in, and again, this is something you can use an unlimited amount of time. So that's the beauty of this stuff is, hey, if I did this and I didn't get a lot of great suggestions, no big deal. I can come back in here and maybe I type in marathon tips for suggest, and on all these just different ideas. You can do it over and over again. And that's exactly what we do when we're looking for good keywords, because with persistence, you'll really find some amazing ideas here. So what you can do from here, and what I do, is I'm just clicking and scrolling down the page, holding down my mouse to highlight everything, okay? And so you can see that I've done that. And then from there, all you have to do is copy paste this into Longtail Platinum, and I'm going to show you how I would do just that. So I hit copy. Now let's jump over to Longtail Platinum, and again, I've sort of pre-done this. I've pre-run this, some of these ideas here, just to save us a couple of minutes of our time for the presentation today. But I went ahead and I created a campaign for running keywords, and then I clicked on find keywords. Okay, and then when I was going through before, what I did is I was just jotting down the ideas that I saw in the Amazon Kindle store, the ideas that I saw in the Runners Forum. Okay, so over here on the left, what I did was I added seed keywords. So these are just idea starters, again, that the tool will give you a bunch of related ideas for. So I put in marathon training, I put in running for beginners, I put in running intervals, pregnant running, and then the other thing that I did is under add my own keywords, which I can expand here. is I simply pasted in all 854 keyword ideas that I got from Ubersuggest. And when I had added my 4 seed keywords, and I put in these 854 ideas, I clicked on generate and fetch data. And about 2.5 minutes later, I had over 3,000 keyword ideas to go through. So you can kind of see, the power of the tool. And again, this is how we begin it. This is how we do it every day. All right. So from there, I've already got my ideas set up here. So I can look at all the keywords at once, or you can click on any one specific keyword. So let's start at marathon training and just take a look at what we've got here. So I've run a little bit of this data ahead of time, like I mentioned, for the sake of our time today. But what you can do is you can simply come over to any keyword that you want, click the calculate button, and that keyword competitiveness score that we've talked about a little bit will run this calculation. And so we're going to do a little bit more in-depth, tell you exactly what you're looking for when it comes to analyzing your competition here in a moment. But as you can see, I want to show you how I like to do this. So I've got 801 keyword ideas just for my seed keyword of marathon training. When I look at this, this is how I start. I click on our little menu over here on the top right, and I like to add in number of keywords. So it says NUM keywords, number of keywords. All right. And what this does is it adds in a new column for me. Okay. And then sometimes I'll just say, only show me things that have a minimum of 6 words in the keyword itself. So I want to look for like really long stuff. And you don't have to do this. This is just how I do it, and it seems to work pretty well. And then from there, I kind of sort it. So I start with like the longest ones first. So you can see these first. This says 10 here. So these have 10 words in the actual phrase itself. And then I still see my local searches, so I kind of know how often it's searched. So this first one is a great example. It says how to train for a marathon in 8 weeks. That's the keyword. It gets searched 140 times a month. And then I did my calculation of the keyword competitiveness of 24, which, as we'll see in a moment, it means that it's pretty darn low competition. And so if I were to look at this and look at the top 10 results, I'm going to see some of the things we talked about earlier. Some less authoritative pages, some pages that aren't really talking about that. Maybe they're talking about marathon training, but it doesn't say anything about 8 weeks. It doesn't say anything about a half marathon. So the opportunity is there for you to write the ultimate guide to how to train for a marathon in 8 weeks and rank very well for that in Google. And so that's sort of the process. So as I click through these, you can do the same thing. If I go over to pregnant running, and I've kind of got my filters already in place here where I'm sorting by the number of keywords, and I go and I want to look, based on the keywords here. And again, I've got a lot of really long tail keyword ideas based on pregnant running. The other thing that I might do when I have something like this, so when I typed in pregnant running, as you may see here, some of these are about pregnancy, but they're not about running. So what I can do with my keyword filter up here is just type in run if I want to, and just see the things that actually say the word run in it, or marathon, or whatever. So I can do that. So if I type in just run, it filters down my list. And now I've got a keyword idea with a score of 22. Again, a very low competition keyword, searched 40 times a month. And this says running a half marathon while pregnant. So this is somebody who's, perhaps pregnant, but they were planning on running a half marathon. I'm thinking they might be wondering how to train for it while pregnant. Is it safe? Can it be done? What to expect? Those kinds of things. So again, another great opportunity. If you have a running website, I can target this keyword and give the full guide to running a half marathon while pregnant, and expect with a very high degree of certainty that I've got a really good chance of ranking in the top 10 of Google for that search phrase. And so you sort of see how this all works together here. All right, so let's move on for the sake of time. We're going to try to leave about 10 minutes at the end. We're going to try to keep things to an hour today. So, and we plan on leaving 10 minutes or so at the end for questions. And I'm kind of long-winded, if I'm just being honest with you. So I could talk about these things for a very long time. So I'm gonna stop myself here and move on to my next slide. But hopefully you're seeing sort of the idea behind long-tail keywords and how we do these things. All right, let me go back into my presentation here. So again, Amazon, searching niche forums, ubersuggest.org, 3 great places to start. Plug those ideas into long-tail platinum like I just did, and in my experience, very, very quickly, you're going to start finding really solid keyword ideas that you can take a note of, mark as a favorite, come back to, and start creating that content for. All right, so now let's talk a little bit more about the competition, which I've alluded to a couple of times. This chart here just shows, based on our keyword competitiveness score that you have in Longtail Platinum, this is how we think about it. And we take a lot of factors into this, like the authority of the website, how well they're targeting it, and some other things that we'll talk about. But basically what we say is that anything at 30 or below is a low competition keyword. And so what we found is that in most niches, there are so many low competition keywords that it's rarely necessary to target higher competition keywords. I mean, it's just, you can find, if I did that, what I just showed you for an hour, and just to be honest, what I found I did in about 5 minutes, if I did that for an hour, I could come up with 25 to 50 solid low competition keywords for somebody that had a running website. And you know, again, that's kind of what we do for our own sites. And so there's so much there that is on the path of least resistance, things that are easy to rank for, that until you have a site that's more established, and maybe that's you, but if you, especially if you're just beginning, focusing almost exclusively on these low competition keywords is the way to go, because you're going to start ranking. And then just naturally, when people come to your site, they'll start sharing it on social media. You might start getting some links back to your site, things like that. And so in that process, your site kind of picks up authority in the eyes of Google, that word we keep throwing around. And so when you do that, then you can kind of move into more moderate and higher competition keywords and maybe rank for those once you're sort of amongst the big guys. And so, but low competition keywords, definitely where to start. So, you know, at most, I mean, once you get to a 40 and above, we tend to stay away from those unless we're working with a really high authority site and we feel like that we can crack the top 10 there. All right, so hopefully this is kind of helpful to you. Now, let's look at how to make keywords have a longer tail. And so we looked at Uber Suggest and things like that, but I want to give you some other just ideas to go off of as you're sort of getting creative with long tail keyword ideas and looking for suggestions. And one way is keyword modifiers. And what that means is just adding a phrase or, you know, just a simple word to your topic. And so we were talking about running shoes a minute ago, and we saw a lot of keyword modifiers there, and I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. But these are a great way to make what is a more general high competition term like running shoes. Again, that would be a very high competition search. I'm sure it's going to have, you know, Nike, Adidas, New Balance, all of these big brands dominating when you just search running shoes. But like we saw, when I look at running shoes for a certain person or the best running shoes for this situation, and I get into a more specific phrase, that opens up the opportunity for you to rank for that phrase. Okay, so adding those keyword modifiers make it lower competition and brings back in the buyer intent, which I talked about a moment ago. So this screenshot that I'm showing you right here talks about buying footprints, and this is actually a little sneak peek from Longtail University, which is our course that you can check out at longtailuniversity.com if you'd like. So a little free preview here, but one of the graphics in there that we show folks is buying footprints, and it just gives you an example. So again, adding best, adding for women, for men, where to buy, best, you know, running shoes for, insert a hobby here, insert a condition here, insert whatever. So you can kind of see that modifier. Another great one is that you see at the bottom there says under $500, under $100. So, you know, we could look at something like best running shoes under $100, and it might be a keyword that gets searched 50 to 100 times, but the buyer intent on something like that is enormous. I mean, somebody that's looking for a specific product in a specific price range, and you can rank for that in Google, I mean, that person's probably looking to buy today. You know, they're saying, hey, I really want some running shoes. I need them to be under $100. Which kind should I look at? You know, and if you write a really good guide to that and sort of review the best brands, and maybe you sell shoes or you send them to Amazon or somewhere to buy shoes as an affiliate, it's a great, great buyer keyword. And so adding some of these modifiers and buyer footprints really work out well for you. And so here is an example. This came from the searches we were doing a moment ago. It's just one I took a screenshot of that has some of these modifiers in it. Actually combines a couple of them. Best running shoes for women with flat feet. That's what the keyword says there in the top left. The top right, I circled that it was a 22 on our keyword competitiveness score. So again, very low competition. It gets searched 320 times a month, which is the number you see again at the top, just to the right of the keyword. And then as we're looking at these results, I just want to point out a little bit more about what we're looking at here. So you don't see, you see a few smaller brands here, just sort of niche websites you've never heard of, which is a really good sign for you. So you want to see sites you've never heard of, because that's great. That means that, sort of lower level sites can rank. That's a good sign for you, whether you're beginning or whether you've got a more established site. It's great. The other thing is, not all of these pages address the issue specifically. So there's one, Nike shoes for overpronation and supination. I don't even know what this stuff is, so maybe that's like a medical term for flat feet, but it's not using the exact keyword. And again, our keyword is best running shoes for women with flat feet. So some of these talk about running shoes for flat feet, but they don't mention anything about women. Or some may mention women, but they don't talk about flat feet, or they don't talk about running shoes. And so we're sort of looking for pages that are really hyper-focused on the topic. And frankly, there aren't many here that are hyper-focused on this topic. So if I had a running blog, I know that this is a really solid keyword that, again, if I build high-quality content for it, I've got a really good chance of passing a lot of these guys, even if their site is authoritative. So if we had, let's see, so the very first, well, you see the domain authority here. The very first result has a domain authority of 85, complex.com, which means it's a really high authority site, okay? So great. But it doesn't mention anything about women. So even if the results do happen to be high authority and they're not relevant, they don't target the search, I can still pass those guys in the rankings because I'm going to be more relevant. I'm going to be more hyper-focused on the topic, and I'm going to be building authority in the process. And so, you're really looking for the combination of both here. You're looking for authority and relevance. And in this case, this is a great example of a really solid keyword. So I tell you what, if somebody's on here and has a running website or a running blog, you're really cashing in with a lot of really good keywords today. So congratulations to you. All right, so let's move on and let's talk a little bit more detail about the things we were just mentioning with analyzing the competition, okay? So target keyword ideas with weak and irrelevant results. And so that's what I was just mentioning. And if you think about it, if I had, when we talk about authority, you think about some of the most authoritative sites on the web, things like maybe the NewYorkTimes.com or Amazon, different sites like that. Yes, they have huge authority, but you're looking for the combination of authority and relevance. So if I search best running shoes for women with flat feet, and I've got a New York Times article that's in the top 10 results, well, the New York Times is a hugely authoritative news outlet, but the article is about the results of last week's New York Marathon. It's completely irrelevant to the search. So it doesn't matter that they're hugely authoritative in this case, because they're really not delivering what the searcher wants. And that's what Google is ultimately trying to do, is to give their users the answers they're looking for. So they're looking for that combination at a high level of what's relevant and what's authoritative, what comes from high quality sites, basically. So when you see things that aren't one or aren't the other, maybe they're low quality, maybe they're irrelevant, it's a really good sign for you, and those are keywords you want to target. Next is results from forums and discussion boards. And so this is a really good sign of weakness. Anytime you see that, and I'll show a screenshot here in a moment that shows one like this. But we talked about using forums for ideas, but forums generally don't have a ton of authority because it's just random people giving their opinion on a topic. And so if you search something and say, hey, what's the best running shoes for women? And the second result is a Yahoo Answers question thread where you've got, Billy Bob from St. Louis who says, I think these are, that's not a really authoritative answer. And so that's a good sign for you. If you see forum results in the top 10, it's a good indicator of something you might want to target. Multiple pages that have zero juice page links. This is something else that I didn't talk about, but you can see in the keyword results there in Longtail Platinum when you're looking at the top 10. And basically it's just saying there are no links pointing to that page. And so generally if a page is high quality, you're going to have people that reference that page elsewhere online and link back to it. And so if that's a high quality site that does that, that is an indicator to Google that this site is important because other related websites are ranking to it. So, for instance, if you wrote the ultimate guide to running shoes for women with flat feet, and there were other websites that are specific, kind of hobby sites for running for women, things like that, and they referenced your page and said, oh, by the way, and according to this site, and put a link to it, that's a link back to your page, and that's a great indicator for Google. It helps you in the search. And so when you're analyzing the competition, pages that have zero links it's a sign of weakness to you to say, well, there's not a whole lot going on with this page, and so I may not even need any links to my page to pass them in the ranking. So you want to see often, multiple pages in that top 10 that don't have any links pointing to them, ideally. And then several results that fail to use the exact keyword in the title. And I talked about this in our last example, when we were looking at shoes for women with flat feet. They didn't mention women. Some didn't mention flat feet. Some had used completely different words altogether. And so Google's good about understanding the intent of the search, but it's also a really good sign of weakness when you see titles that sort of border on irrelevant because they don't really address the specific phrase. So if you can get real specific with it, you've got a better chance of ranking. And then 2 or more pages with page authority under 30. And I won't spend a whole lot of time there, but this is page authority is a number that comes from Haws, which talks about the authority of a page. And basically it's sort of giving you a calculation on its ability to rank. Now, it doesn't necessarily take into account the relevance to the keyword that we've talked about. And so that's why ultimately our keyword competitiveness score we think is a little bit more accurate for this purpose, for what you're trying to do. Can I rank for this phrase? Because it kind of takes all of these factors into one number. But it's good to see some lower authority results in the top 10. That's a really good sign for you. And then an average competitiveness under 30, which is, again, the long tail platinum calculation. That's what we look for in the ideal low competition keyword, and the lower the better. All right, so here's, again, one more example. This is a weight loss term here. And it says how to lose weight to fit in a dress is the name of the keyword here. Search 20 times a month, keyword competitiveness of 23. And then I just highlighted a couple results here that kind of fit what we were talking about. The second one, the title of the page is Dress Doesn't Fit, Weddings in 3 Days, and it's a forum. It's some kind of wedding discussion board, okay? So, it's about their dress not fitting. It's not really on topic. It's a discussion board, which generally, again, is lower competition. Same thing, Yahoo Answers down at the bottom. I need help losing weight fast. So this is a keyword that's just ripe for the pickings. I mean, very easy to rank for if you build a targeted guide to this that's high quality. All right, so let's move on here, and I'm going to turn it in. I'm going to speed it up just a little bit as best I can. So what to do with your keywords. Now, this is important. Once you have these keyword ideas, I suppose you could say that's half the battle, or maybe 60% of the battle, something like that. Then you've got to do something with them. Just knowing, I've shown different keyword ideas today that, again, if I had a fitness or a running website, I would absolutely target. But just knowing that doesn't mean that I automatically am going to rank for those phrases. What do you do with them? Well, first, you can write new articles. So as it makes sense, if it's something that you can create, ideally a thorough guide to whatever that topic is, I think that's best. Google likes thorough content, and there's data out there that supports that, when you have over 2,000 words in an article, for instance, a lot of times the top 10 results sort of fit that profile. So not everything has to be super long, but ideally you want to cover the topic thoroughly, write a new article about it. Another way is to tweak old articles that are underperforming. So if you're in long tail platinum and you find a great keyword idea, like how to lose weight to fit into a dress, like we saw a minute ago, you might think, what, I've already got a blog post out there that basically talks about that, but I don't really mention that keyword. I'm not focused on that keyword. You could go back and just tweak the title of that article, maybe tweak the content a little bit or refresh it or add to it. And all of a sudden now you've got an old article that you've sort of repurposed with the intent of ranking for that keyword. So that's another way to do it. And then using multiple related keywords in one article, perhaps as subheadings or sections. And there's an example out there of this. Well, there are tons of examples out there of this. One that is sort of known well is on survivallife.com. They have an article, 36 paracord projects for preppers. So if you Google paracord projects or anything like that, you will find this article. And basically in it, they rank well for the general term paracord projects, but then down below it, they have, how to make a bracelet out of paracords, how to make a wallet out of paracord, and all of these different things. Okay. And so they rank for all these subheading phrases too. So if you're finding keywords where you think it might be really difficult to create a big enough article or create one page that's just about this really narrow topic, another way to do it is to kind of throw them all together into one big article. So maybe it fits under the umbrella of women's running shoes, and then inside that you kind of have subsections, subheadings of all these different varieties. So that's another way that you can do that. All right, so how to target keywords. I'm going to show you an example here in just a moment that we've done on Longtail Pro, and kind of put this into action. So let me first cover the points of what I'm going to show you. Use the exact keyword in the title and the description of your page. And this one it's a big one. Probably the most important, as far as this is often called on-page SEO or on-page search engine optimization. So the title and description of your page, which is what we were seeing over there on the left column when we were looking at Longtail Platinum, you want to have the keyword you're targeting in both your title and your description. If you're a WordPress user, there's a plugin out there that you may have heard of called SEO by Yoast, that basically makes this very simple to do. So on any blog post or any page that you do, it puts it right there in front of you, so you can write in a custom title and description, and just make sure that you've got your keyword in there. And generally you're writing a compelling title and description, but it includes the keyword. Another way is just to write naturally using the keyword at least once in your content. And so if you've been doing this for a while, or sort of reading SEO blogs for a while, there was a time when what's called keyword stuffing, where you basically just throw the keyword in your content a bunch of times, actually worked. And so it signaled to Google that that's what this page is about, and it helped you rank. But now that is like a big no-no and will get your site penalized. And so there's no reason to do anything like that anymore. Usually I try to use the exact keyword in the first paragraph or so. And then from there, maybe I use it again, maybe I don't. I just kind of see how it goes. I just write about the topic naturally, and I'm good. Using H2 or subheaders with related keywords to break up your page. And so again, we talked about subheadings a moment ago, but no matter what, you want to make your page skimmable, for readers of the web so they can get through your content quickly. But using subheaders that are related to your keyword, maybe they use your exact keyword, but something similar to it, that helps speak to what your page is about overall when it comes to Google. Using the alt text on your images to include keywords. And so alt text, if you're not familiar, is basically just the text behind an image that serves the purpose of someone who's visually impaired, or someone who has images disabled in their browser for whatever reason. It is a text description that you can add to the image to say what this image is, so they know, okay? And so a lot of times people will leave this blank or not really care about it, and it's not the most important thing in the world. But when you have images inside of your blog post, using your alt text to sort of sprinkle in your keyword, talk about similar keywords in your alt text, is a great idea, because Google sees that alt text, okay? And so it helps you rank for when people are searching for images, but it also, again, speaks to what this page is about overall. And then finally, including your keyword in your page URL. And so let's take a look at, very briefly, I'm going to go to my browser real quick. I'm going to show you how we did this. So if you go, one thing that we targeted, and again, I found it in Longtail Platinum and I used it for our business with Longtail Pro, is Weebly SEO. Okay, so Weebly is a drag and drop site builder. And I kind of thought about it and saw an opportunity to where I could write a guide to doing on-page SEO for Weebly, talk a little, introduce the concept of keywords and introduce Longtail Pro to people that were reading it. And so I targeted that keyword. And as you can see, we're ranked 5th, 6th, well, 4th, whatever, something like that for Weebly SEO right now on the page that I did several months ago. So let me show you that in the back end of WordPress real quick. And so as you can see, I've got my link here. It's just longtailpro.com/Weebly-SEO, exactly what I'm targeting. The page title is Weebly SEO, how to rank your Weebly site in Google. Okay, so I've got it in my page title. Throughout the content, I mentioned Weebly SEO. I talk about just about everything you can talk about. One of my subheaders is Weebly SEO basics, why keywords matter, optimizing your advanced settings in Weebly, advanced setting for Weebly blog posts, and I'm just, Weebly on-page optimization, all of these similar phrases. What about the Weebly SEO settings? And so as you go down, you can see, and this is that Yoast plugin I mentioned, or actually it's a similar one that we use, but you can see it's in my title, it's in my description. If we went and looked at this alt tag, it's there. So I've really covered my bases. I haven't done anything unnatural or whatever that might be seen as shady or anything like that. I've just done solid optimization. There's no question marks in the mind of Google what this page is about. It's about 2,200 words long. It's had a lot of really good comments, and people that have read it have liked it, so it's helpful. And in turn, we rank really well in Google. So that's sort of kind of a roadmap and example of how we use that for our own business. So let me go back to the presentation here, and we're wrapping up here in just a minute. Yep, so cover this. All right, so wrapping up for today before we get into Q&A. So just a reminder of the things that we talk about. Consistent focus on low competition, long tail keywords. I'm not saying that every page on your site or every blog post you do has to be focused on a long tail keyword or something that's low competition. That's not necessarily the case, but I do believe that most of them should be, at least half, so there's different strategies you can go about that, but it's not something where you find one good keyword, write one blog post, and then all of a sudden, the heavens open up and you just get this flood of traffic. It's just not how it works. You have to be consistent with it. You have to keep finding long tail keywords, keep creating the content, and it sort of picks up momentum with a little bit of a snowball effect. Use suggestion tools like Uber Suggest to get even more ideas besides some of the general brainstorming techniques that we talked about. Adding modifiers to hone in on those buyer keywords. This is great if you're selling products of your own, or if you're selling affiliate products. There's some real money to be made here. And again, don't be too concerned about really low search volume. If it's searched 5 or 10 times a month, but it's an excellent buyer keyword for your industry, go for it, because you're going to make money from that keyword. And then use common sense optimization to focus on your keyword. And that's what I showed just a moment ago with our article with Weebly SEO. You don't have to do any tricks. You don't have to do anything crazy. Just cover your bases, and you're going to put yourself in a really good position to succeed. And then rinse and repeat. As I mentioned, it's not a one and done strategy. This is something that you have to take on. It's a long-term play. I mean, you don't publish a post tonight and tomorrow expect to be ranking #1. It's just not how it happens. Usually it takes several months. It depends on the age of your site. But if you're a newer site, it might take several months before you start seeing anything. But knowing the strategy, understanding what you're doing and why you're doing it with a tool like Longtail Platinum, so you aren't guessing, you kind of know ahead of time what your results might be, you can really rinse and repeat this with confidence so that you can know, hey, I've got a really good chance to rank. I'm going to keep doing this, and you're going to start getting some hits and start picking up some traffic. All right, so got a special offer for you guys. I know many of you, like Spencer said, have taken the free trial of Longtail Pro along the way. If you go to longtailpro.com, we sell lifetime access now, which is relatively new actually, to Longtail Platinum, which is what I showed you today with the keyword competitiveness score and importing the keywords and all of that, sort of our premium product. Sells for $397 on the site. That's no monthly payments, all that. It's just a one-time fee. We're giving you a $100 discount. So if anybody's on the call today and you want to get Longtail Platinum, you'll be able to get it for $297 at the link you see on the page. Also, I believe we're going to show an offer there that you'll see on the right side by the chat. But if you go to longtailpro.com/webinar-deal, you'll see this offer. And then that also includes all future enhancements for free. So, recently we came out with version 3 where we redesigned the product and added new features. So our folks that have the product, they always get that stuff for free. And so we've got some exciting stuff coming down the pike that you'll get as well. And again, no monthly subscription or anything like that. And we have a full 60-day money back guarantee. So, for whatever reason it's not working out for you, we can kind of shake hands and part as friends. But again, as I say, and I say this, from the bottom of my heart, I was a customer before I worked for Longtail Pro. And absolutely, I can say that the things that I've done sort of on the side and now do professionally, I could have never done without using Longtail Platinum. It just makes it so much saves you so much time, and just the intelligence that you gain from that is invaluable. I mean, it just, and I know because I did it wrong for a long time where I was just blindly guessing at what I should be writing about. And once I sort of saw the other side of it and understood it, it really opened up a new world. And so, and it's made a big difference for us at Longtail Pro, which Spencer would tell you too. So we definitely practice what we preach. So anyway, that said, if you guys are interested, take advantage of it. If not, hopefully you've learned a lot from this webinar anyway. Certainly there's a lot that you can apply, whether you're a customer of Longtail Platinum or not. I think hopefully you took some things away today that can help you with your own business. And with that said, we're going to open it up for questions. So Spencer has been hopefully monitoring the questions as we go. So he might come in with some that we've got to start here. But if you have other questions, feel free to add those to the chat now, and we'll answer as many as we can here in the last 6 or 7 minutes.
Yep, absolutely. There have been a few questions along the way, and I've done my best to answer some of those. Now, we're going to go over a few more of those right now, but if you do have additional questions, please put those in the chat box again. somebody is asking, after they find keywords and they produce the content, how do they go about ranking in Google? So maybe you can address that, Jake. Is there anything else they need to be doing, or is just writing content good enough?
Yeah, a lot of times, frankly, if you find low enough competition keywords, just publishing the content is enough. Now, there are things that you can do to help and to expedite that. I mentioned backlinks earlier, which are just, that's a quality signal to Google, and it makes total sense. Like if you wrote something about whatever topic, and then some really, let's just say that a local newspaper or the New York Times quoted you in an article and linked to your article about that, which, maybe that'll never happen, but as an example, that is a huge indicator to Google to say, hey, the New York Times linked to this page, so we know it's authority. It's kind of like the game, whatever it is, like 6 Degrees to Kevin Bacon or something. The closer you are to these high authority sites that link to you as a reference or as a resource is a great thing. And so that said, if you publish a really good piece, doing some email outreach to people that are in your niche, it doesn't have to be a huge media outlet, but just somebody else, if you're doing a running blog, there are plenty of running blogs out there, sort of doing a little bit of networking, saying, hey, I just wanted you to check this out and send them a link to it. If you're doing really good stuff, a lot of times they'll share it on Facebook, they'll post it on their site or post a link to it on their site. So these are things that'll get some positive momentum. Another technique similar to that, so you don't just sound like you're begging for a link, is anytime you mention somebody in your articles, maybe you quote somebody who's an expert on the topic, or you kind of brag on a business or something like that, I always send them an email after I publish it and say, hey, just give me a heads up. I just published this article about whatever, and we mentioned you guys. I really love the way you do this, or I really loved your article about this, and we included it. Just wanted to make sure you saw it. And that's it. You're not asking for a favor, just giving them a heads up. And people, as you would imagine, respond very positively to that. A lot of times we'll get links, and that can expedite the process of ranking highly in Google.
All right, now, Jake, can you go back to slide 10? Somebody has a question. They just wanted to view slide 10 again. I believe that's the one. Yes, if you could just maybe make a presentation mode again.
Okay.
We'll just leave it there for a second, and then actually in just a minute, maybe you can scroll ahead to the link for the webinar deal so people can see that. But still have a few other questions here. Sheila is asking, so I can go back and rename the title in old articles. I'll go ahead and answer that. Yes, you absolutely can. So if you have articles that you've written a long time ago, and now you've done your keyword research and you feel like you have a better grasp of what you should have written your title as originally, you can definitely go back, rewrite your title so that it's includes the keywords you want to include and is perhaps a little bit more catchy to the user. And that could help you rank better in Google. So yeah, why don't you go ahead and scroll ahead to the webinar deal. Again, it's $100 off Longtail Platinum. And again, Longtail Platinum is the version of the software that includes the keyword competitiveness calculation that Jake was talking about. The basic version of Longtail Pro does not include that calculation. So if you want that one number between 0 and 100 that shows you how difficult or easy it is to rank in Google, you do have to get Longtail Platinum, and you can get $100 off that lifetime access at longtailpro.com/webinar deal like we're showing there right now. So a few other questions. Here's just a quick one I'll answer. Again, Roderick is asking, page authority, the smaller numbers show more authority? No, it's actually the larger numbers show more authority. So smaller numbers are less authority in that case. Laura is asking, what about e-commerce keywords on home page? I'm not sure specifically what she means about on the home page, but maybe Jake, you want to talk about how does this apply to e-commerce keywords? Is it still the same tactics, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, largely it is. So when you have like product keywords, like we still tell people, and we're doing this, Spencer's talked a lot about his Amazon business and things like that. And we're kind of doing this with our own sites now. But a lot of those buyer keyword modifiers that I mentioned earlier absolutely apply for e-commerce stores. I mean, you need to have, in my opinion, you need to have some content along with your products, so some written content. But the example I gave, best running shoes for women with flat feet, if you were a shoe retailer, that could absolutely be a product page for you. You start out with an intro article and show your expertise on the topic. And then at the end of that, your call to action is to buy a pair of shoes or to download, whatever, some kind of guide. So you pick up a lead there. So certainly you can mix in selling product with content. And that's kind of the formula that works. And we've seen that work for sure.
And here's just another quick one that I can answer here. Somebody was kind of following up to the question about, can you change the title of your old articles? Yes, you can. They're asking, well, can you change the URL? And yeah, in most cases you can. In WordPress, it's very easy. You can go in and update your permalinks, your URLs there, so you can include keywords in the URL if you want to do that, which is usually what I do. It is a good signal as well to have that keyword in your URL. Let's see here. Darren is asking how to decide what keywords should be on the front page of your website versus your blog. And I'll just give my opinion that, and this may, it's hard to determine, this may be somebody asking about micro niche sites where in the good old days, you might only target one keyword on the home page, and that was really what you focused on. That's really kind of changed. Now you can target lots and lots of keywords, and so it's not so critical what you're targeting on your home page. You don't necessarily need a static article on your home page. If you go to nichepursuits.com, that gives you a good idea of how I build all of my websites. It's just has all the latest blog posts, and my home page happens to rank for things like niche business ideas and niche websites and that sort of thing. But each of my blog posts is where I target all my individual keywords. So I don't know if you have any follow-up to that, Jake, or if that sounds good.
No, yeah, that's pretty good. I would just say, for the majority of our sites, the SEO, or excuse me, like the search engine traffic that we get comes to specific blog posts the vast majority of the time. Like it comes to somebody's looking for Spencer talking about Amazon FBA or whatever, and they'll actually go to that blog post instead of the homepage. So like he said, a lot of this stuff we talk about is more important for the pages and posts on your site. The homepage is kind of just, you can use it as to collect leads. You can use it to show the latest post. You can do a lot of things with it. But the keyword focus and most of your traffic generally is going to come to your internal pages on the site.
Right. Now, Bert is asking a question. What is the KC again? I'll go ahead and tackle that. So KC, it means keyword competitiveness, and it's a score between 0 and 100 that when you calculate it for any keyword, it tells you how difficult that keyword might be to rank for in Google. So it does all of the calculations, all of the analysis for you within the software, rather than you having to basically make a judgment call on your own. The software gives you a number that it's based on, the page authority of the top 10 results in Google, the number of links that those pages have, how relevant the page title is to the keyword that you're looking at, and then a couple of other factors. But it does this calculation for you so you can quickly know that, hey, if this keyword has a KC of 30 or less, that probably means that it's something that would be much easier to rank for in Google. That's the standard that we use, is 30 or less. Okay. A couple other questions here. We know we're a little bit over time, so we'll try to wrap this up here in just a minute. Somebody's asking about whether or not exact match domains still work. I don't really use exact match domains anymore. I buy brandable domains like nichepursuits.com and other things that you can build a brand around, rather than having the domain, how to lose weight under, what was the keyword that you have? How to lose weight under 40 days or 30 days, or I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, if
.com,
Yeah, right.
Right. So I go for brandable domains and that sort of thing. There's maybe a couple other straggling questions here, but I think we're about ready to wrap up, Jake. What do you think?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. I think we tackled the larger ones and hopefully hit upon the questions that we could do a better job of answering right now live on the webinar for you. So if you do have any additional questions, you can always contact us over at longtailpro.com. We do have a contact/support page there that you're welcome to do. Yeah, Jake, I'll let you go ahead and wrap up the webinar.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate everybody being here today. As I mentioned earlier, we will send out, probably tomorrow, we'll send out a replay link of this. So, you guys will have a recording of this that you can go back to. And as Spencer said, if you have any questions, we're happy to answer those. So, but check out the webinar deal that you guys, we've got that up for 48 hours, I believe. So if you're interested, you can get $100 off. But I hope everybody has a great weekend, and thanks for being here.